This video will demonstrate how Microsoft's Power BI can handle a business intelligence reporting project end-to-end in minutes. We will do this using the four pillars of Power BI: Power Query, Power Pivot, Power Map, and Power View. Consider the following hypothetical scenario at your company. You've just been handed the requirements that you must find data external to your company, reference that to data internal to your company, create a 3D map of geographical data, as well as a report with all dimensions filterable, and finally, that report must be touch-enabled on mobile devices. This would seem to be a very daunting task. Consider everything you would have to do: an extensive search to find this external data, an etal process to pull it into your local data store, data modeling and mapping to reference it to your existing data, a reporting project to create the 3D map, possibly a cube for a report with all dimensions filterable, and finally, exposing that data through services, and a complete project to create your own custom app that makes use of this data. But as you're about to see, Power BI can do all this in minutes using its pillars. Power Query, for example, can help you find that external data. Power Pivot makes it easy to reference that data to data internal to your company. Power Map makes it easy to create a 3D map of geographical data. Power View can be used to produce a report with all dimensions filterable that can finally be released to the existing Power BI mobile app. So let's get started. I'll begin by starting Excel 2013 with all add-ins for Power BI currently enabled. I'll come to Power Query and I will ready an online search. In this particular scenario, what we're looking for is elections data from the 2012 election. So I will search for 2012 election votes by state. What is nice about the Excel online search is that you can get tooltips that enable you to easily visualize the data and tell if it's something you want. It looks like the third one down is the data exactly as I would want it, by state with number of votes for the major candidates. One click will then bring this into my Excel file. I will then take the time, just for aesthetics, to clean up the data I don't need. I only need the data for number of votes per candidate. So I'll remove the other columns, as well as removing the total column at the bottom, because our reporting will handle that. Finally, I will remove these special characters so that our state names can reference to our existing data. Power Query has just gotten us our data. Now to reference it to our existing data in our SQL Server database, I will come to Power Pivot. I will add our existing table to our data model in Power Pivot. And I will pull from a SQL Server within our company the data necessary to map the individual states to regions that matter within our company. In this case, the table state region. So you can see state region maps the state to a region within our company: Connecticut in the Northeast, Colorado in the Southwest, and so on. I can create a reference between these two tables by clicking the column and clicking Create Relationship, very similar to a primary key foreign key relationship. This will enable reports to filter by our newly referenced data. So we have now handled our first two bullets, pulling in external data and mapping to our existing data. I can now begin to report by coming to Insert and launching Power Map. Power Map will make it easy to create a 3D visualization of this data. I will choose State as the column by which we want to geographically map. I will then choose our measures to be the data for Obama, Romney, Johnson, and Stein. As you can see, very easily, we have a 3D representation of our data. We can even capture a video of this data. We'll call it 2012 election data. With our video now complete, we can open it and view our visual representation. With 3 of our bullet points now complete, we can now set about creating that custom report with all filterable dimensions. I will come into Insert and launch Power View. This data probably lends itself well to a bar graph. So after the data is pulled in, I will select the table and switch the visualization to be a bar graph. I will remove the electors count, as that is not something we want in the graph itself, though we do want it as a filter. That way we can filter on states with the most number of electors, say the most being California and Texas. We will also be able to filter by our region, that reference data that we brought in from our local SQL server, in case we want to look at the non-continental states like Alaska and Hawaii. Adding a title. This spreadsheet is now ready to be published to the mobile app. Our last step to make this accessible to all users. I will save the Excel file as a.xlsx that you are used to. And now we can very easily come to our Office 365 SharePoint site and drag it in. That spreadsheet is now available to all people I have chosen to share it with on this SharePoint site. To visualize this in a mobile app, Microsoft has its Power BI mobile app from which you can reference. Coming into Browse, I can find this SharePoint site, find that spreadsheet, and it is now available in a touch-enabled modern app on Windows 8. Here's our bar graph data, as well as our ability to filter by the regions that we brought in, and also limit by electors. You have just seen how Power BI can take a business intelligence reporting project end-to-end in minutes using Power Query, Power Pivot, Power View, and Power Map.